The petroleum industry is one of the world's largest industries, and undoubtedly, it is contributing significantly to the gross domestic product (GDP) of many nations. This global powerhouse uses hundreds of thousands of workers in generating billions of dollars globally each year. According to the most recent data collected by the Energy Information Administration (EIA), total oil production averaged more than 80 million barrels per day in 2018, with each oil-producing country like USA, Saudi Arabia, China, Nigeria, amongst many others, contributing their quota to global economy. Prior to the discovery of crude oil in 1956 in commercial quantity in Oloibiri, present-day Bayelsa State, Nigeria strongly relied on agricultural exports. However, this was relegated to the background as oil became the backbone of the nation's economy. This land, flowing with liquid gold, held a promise for the nation, one of prosperity, wealth, and overall development. Sadly, this was not the case, as expectations of development and wealth were stunted by stagnancy, poverty, and immense hunger. Expectations pruned too early. Dreams became a fading mirage. A once happy people degenerated to abductors, men with machete to pipelines, women with songs of woe, and children of fury and vengeance, dancing to rhythms of explosion, sliding one foot after another into chaotic despairs.
It was a crisis that could have been managed, but because of seeming challenges in engagement and approach of handling the agitations in the Niger Delta, it was badly managed. And that led to the massive destruction. And that hurt the economy so badly.
Following the historic crisis that bedeviled the Niger Delta region from 2004 up until 2016, one would assume that prospects of oil exploration will be relegated to history's archive and the South-South states grappling to recover. However, this is not the case.
The Niger Delta region is the bedrock of Nigeria's crude oil production. Amongst the 9 oil-producing states, Delta State, which is located at the very heart of the Niger Delta, is blessed with enormous oil resources and home to several oil companies like Shell and Chevron, amongst others, and has risen to prominent heights, ranking her as number 1 in oil production despite the 2016 crisis bombing that led to the shutdown of major oil terminals and an ultimate fall in Nigeria's oil production and national revenue.
Delta State was a theater of war. The major Escavos trunk line that is in Delta State, which is the feeder for Delta State, was blown up.
The question that ordinarily comes to mind is, how was Delta able to restore normalcy in oil-bearing communities and achieve this great height?
We engaged the traditional rulers, we engaged the religious class, we began to engage the youths, and we realized that there was a need to use this peer group influence. You need to be able to restructure the mind of some persons who were former agitators and then get them to be the persons that we now go back to talk to their fellow former agitators, and it's paid off very well.
The root shock of militant activities at the wake of Governor Kowa's administration in 2016 was a catastrophic incident that dealt a big blow to the economy of the state and nation. Governor Kowa knew he had to establish adequate structures to tackle the existing unrest and forestall possibility of reoccurrence, especially in the creeks. This line of thoughts birthed the Peace Advocacy Committee against oil facility vandalism, championed by the Deputy Governor Kingsley Burutu-Otuaro. Beyond rhetorics, substantive efforts, discussions, Consultations and visitations were made in this regard.
There has actually been a lot of issues between the oil operating companies and the host communities, which of course is unhealthy for the oil operating environment. To that effect, we had constituted structures and institutions to drive home the burning issue of peace and security in the oil producing environment in the state.
This mutual engagement efforts of the Utwaro-led committee was followed with the institution of the Waterways and Land Security Committee. The committee, working in tandem with other security agencies, was charged with the responsibility of enhancing peace and security in the state through information and intelligence gathering. This further gives strength to the vision of creating a peaceful environment.
What we do is collect local intelligence, be very, very watchful, checking those who are doing bunkering. And when we see such things, we report to the security agencies and we guide them to make arrests. To that extent, this state has really known peace, both in the riverine and on land.
From 2015 to date, the river been calm. Every investors can come and work. Oil companies are working freely. There's nothing like pipeline vandalization.
As a grassroots administrator, Governor Kowa subsequently partnered and collaborated with traditional rulers who interface directly with the people. This smart move steered the state towards the appreciable peace and utmost security witnessed in the coastal regions, which was once home to agitators.
We also called meetings where we gather our sons and daughters, our youth, and we try to educate them on the need to allow peace to reign. That collaborative efforts of the governor has yielded much dividend.
Arising from our major role as custodians, the governor had to work in unison with us, soliciting that we prevail on our various subjects to ensure that peace reigns in the Niger Delta region.
This was closely followed up by the inauguration of the Delta State Advisory and Peace Building Council, Delta State Elders Council. These various councils, since inauguration, have brought their knowledge and oversight to bear in the dealings and affairs of the state.
The existence of this Advisory and Peace Building Council, its mere existence carries with it that unquantifiable product that His Excellency the Governor got it right.
This ad hoc committee, about 9-man ad hoc committee, we are constantly in the creek, we are constantly meeting with our children, and eventually success was achieved.
Another remarkable step the government of the day took to maintain peace in the creeks is through empowerment and indulgence of the youths, preoccupying them with skills acquisition, which is then followed up with essentials for a business startup. Subsequently, this has dealt a big blow to youth restiveness in the state.
Because of this project, it has been spreading across Delta State. There's no more vandalism and the rest of them, and many of them have been engaged. So if you have something meaningful, you're being engaged, you will not be tempted to do otherwise.
In the same vein, the incorporation of youths into the policy-making process through appointments of youths at different levels, cutting across the 3 senatorial districts in the administration, has given them a sense of belonging, and this has further championed the cause of peace in the state.
Most of the appointments you have in the states are given to youths. So that has reduced drastically the level of youth restiveness and oil vandalization in the various oil producing communities.
COA had to concentrate on the real and younger youths like us to occupy these positions.
Again, through the instrumentality of the Oil and Gas Ministry, the governor deployed a multi-pronged approach to deliver on his promise of a smarter and stronger Delta. The ministry has worked relentlessly in the pursuit of sustainable peace between government, oil companies and their host communities through effective interface and mediation between feuding parties.
After all the efforts the governor made to sustain the peace in the Niger Delta, we in the Ministry of Oil and Gas were saddled with the responsibility, still saddled with that responsibility to sustain that peace that we're enjoying. And that is why in all the misunderstandings between IOCs and host communities, we've always told them, before you go and protest or do anything, write to the Ministry of Oil and Gas. We'll sit down, intervene, and the citizens of Delta State are beginning to see that it's a process that works. And when they see a process that works, they keep faith with that process.
As part of its confidence-building efforts, the Oil and Gas Ministry holds regular town hall meetings among stakeholders with the focal aim of simultaneously resolving existing disputes and proactively discouraging the emergence of new ones. Related to the two broad focal goals are the need for the safeguard and protection of oil installations and the improvements on the harmonious relationship between hosts and oil and gas companies.
You know, without peace, there could be no meaningful development, and no company will want to operate in an atmosphere that is ridden with crisis.
Many have identified job creation, engagement with traditional institutions, development in the creeks, as well as other peace initiatives as being central to the overall peace and development in Delta State. But you know what? Come with us as we tour some of the oil facilities in the state to see how these initiatives have impacted on oil exploration and exploitation. We are good to go.
The first port of call was Midwestern Oil Flow Station in Kwale. At Midwestern Oil, the Smart Delta Media team had a wonderful experience touring the facility and learning a thing or two about their mode of operations. They took us through safety drills as well as health checks to ensure that we were fit to tour the facility.
Welcome to Delta, my Delta, my Delta. Welcome to Delta, my Delta, my Delta. Come live in Delta, come invest in Delta, come explore the potentials of our state. Come live in Delta, come invest
in the course of the tour, Smart Delta noticed placements of fire hydrants almost at every single stop. Of course, we did not hesitate to ask why.
One of our aim of working here is to ensure that we work here safe and go back home. One of the safety precautions is having firefighting equipment. We have a firefighting truck at the gate. We also have the fire water tank. This is where we store water that we use in the case of fire.
Now, Mr. Williams, head of community liaison at Midwestern Oil, did not fail to laud the approach government has taken in dealing with issues pertaining to the relationship and dispute resolution between oil companies and host communities.
I want to thank the governor, Senator Ifeanyi Kowa, who throughout his 4 years of stay retained and maintained the Ministry of Oil and Gas. The Ministry of Oil and Gas has been so helpful to all the companies producing in Delta State.
Done with Midwestern Oil, Smart Delta headed to Platform Petroleum Limited, where we had another round of tour.
You are welcome, welcome to Delta State. You are welcome. A state peaceful and well secured. You are welcome. A state we got the black gold. You are welcome. Our eyes is always on the prize. You are welcome. Welcome to Delta State. You are welcome.
Just like Midwestern, Mr. Godwin Alumona, a representative of Platform Petroleum Limited, had this to say about government peacekeeping initiatives.
The present administration has actually done well in ensuring that there is peace and security in the area. For us, our contractors come and do their job and go back safely. So the present state government is doing so much to ensure that there is peace and security.
From the testimonies of these oil companies, the Delta State government, through the Ministry of Oil and Gas, has created an enabling environment through effective interface between the government, the international oil companies, and the host communities for them to carry out their work in peace and safety.
Smart Delta.
You better run, come to Delta State. Come and see the good things where Okowa they do. You better run, come welcome to Delta State. Come and see the good things where Okowa they do. I see your job and work creation in Delta. Make the youth say them highlight. Okowa. I see good roads everywhere in Delta. Make the people say them cola.
With reduced tension in the oil-bearing communities, which was attained through series of mediation and interface between host communities and oil companies, the sun began to beam its light once more on the state. Major oil companies and flow stations, which initially shut down as a result of militant activities, began to regain confidence in the capability of the state government to create a conducive environment for oil extraction and exploration.
All the oil logistics companies, all the attendant support companies for oil and gas were dormant for a lot of time. That was a big pain on the economy. But arising from all the interventions by the state government in sustaining and complementing what the federal government did, we found our way back.
This renewed confidence resulted in increase in oil production and subsequently revenue. The state has seen numerous projects in both riverine and upland communities of the state, so much that these projects have earned the state governor accolades like the Roadmaster and Promise Keeper from both Deltans and non-Deltans alike.
I welcome the government of Governor Okowa because he's a good man and he's a good governor to us. He's a roadmaster. He has done a lot in this government. And we pray for him that he should continue to do as much as possible for us to become a good Delta and one Nigeria.
His Excellency, the Governor of Delta State, have done well. Delta State is a state in the Niger Delta region. This is a state where Nigeria's vast resources come from. Other governors from this region should emulate the good work that he's doing. I want to commend him to do more, and I believe there are much more things he can do.
The vision of building a stronger Delta where Deltans will live in prosperity is evident even in far-flung riverine communities like Ogula, Okurenkoko, Brotu, to mention but a few. These communities before now were deemed very difficult in terms of development due to its swampy terrain. Today, through the pragmatic approach, the story is that of success.
Like in my place, there was no road from Bamadi to Ozobo. But as I speak with you, the road project is ongoing. In Ogla, in Egwa, and so many other places, there is massive construction of road, construction of schools. A lot of things are happening, and so the people are benefiting tremendously. The governor is doing very well.
Okowa na better man. He do well for us. May God bless him for we. Make he get the mind to do other ones for us. In Jesus' name.
When Okowa came in, we began to see the footprint of the government right in our domain. And even if you can see, there is still ongoing process, road work.
As Okowa Region Council, we get light, we carry plant for we, they enjoy light. Our picking they go school very well. We get good road, with a big apartment for we when they enjoy. Okowa government really try for we.
Echoes of development through the Delta State Interventionist Agency, DESOPADEC, is manifest in every nook and cranny of the oil-bearing communities, pushing aside feelings of resentment while creating a sense of belonging.
If you see what DESOPADEC has been doing for everywhere around the state, you will see the impact. I want to thank His Excellency Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa for all that he has done.
Now you see a beautiful walkway, housing, water. I think the people, they are happy about this project. The governor and the board of DESOPADEC, they've done well. They should continue to do more to deliver right communities.
He give us lights, he give us water, he be us for us, he do everything for us. He make we turn to be London for us.
It has been identified that one major cause of conflicts between oil companies and their host communities is flagrant disregard of their corporate social responsibility, CSR, as encapsulated in GMOUs and MOUs, an agreed document that allows host communities determine their own developmental priorities while the oil companies provide the funding. Having identified this, the Delta State Ministry of Oil and Gas has established adequate structures to tackle this challenge.
On my watch as the Commissioner for Oil and Gas, we did away with the Dwam syndrome. And the era of just going into a field and start doing things is past. We have project monitoring departments that will monitor to ensure that what is on your MOU or GMOU is implemented.
In line with this, Smart Delta Media team visited some communities playing host to some of the oil companies in the state to see some of their projects. A blazing arrow that points to their compliance with the dictates of their corporate social responsibility as stated in the MOU. The people are happy because they say that the Okowa-led government has been able to propel these oil companies to fulfill promises made in the MOU to the host communities.
The community is indebted to that particular Ministry of Oil and Gas as a result of our numerous protests to that particular ministry. And they made sure that Midwestern fulfills all the outstanding MOU projects. This is one.
Governments have come in so many ways, but the present one, the Okowa, with his smart agenda and all those things, we appreciate him because he listens to the company, the community, and individuals.
Many projects when we say they do for the community, now Okowa make their do. Governor Okowa, they try you. I hear you.
To ensure that the people as well as the states are well represented in the process of GMOU formulation, the Attorney General of the state plays a vital role to complement the efforts of the Ministry of Oil and Gas. Hear him.
We've put in place models that has made it possible for less agitation, more interaction, and also, as much as possible, even distribution of contracts that are community related.
Local content, which is also a major component of GMOUs, has been identified by the ministry as a necessary ingredient and inroad to secure peace between oil companies and host communities, a policy the ministry ensures is adhered to.
Before now, majority of the surveillance of the oil pipeline and some facilities are being given to people who are not from the states. And that is one of the local content issue. Because if you give these things to the people from the area, nothing will happen. And when the amiable governor start bonding on the GMOU and the local content team here and the MOU committee, we ensure that the surveillance must be within the reach of the host community. And today, it has reduced the vandalizations of pipelines in the state.
It gives everybody, mostly those from the rural area here, it gives them that sense of belonging, because a situation where you have a facility like this operating within and the local content is properly put in place, then there'll be relative peace for both the company and the host community.
Consequently, the House Committee on Oil and Gas, Delta State House of Assembly, plays complementary but significant role to the Ministry of Oil and Gas and other government parastatals to create a favorable balance that is convenient and conducive for oil companies in the state and good representation of the interest of the state vis-a-vis the host communities.
Since inauguration in June, we have done a lot of mediation between companies. And I can tell you that oil prospect has risen beyond 70,000 barrels per day to 85,000 barrels per day as of today. So it's a remarkable improvement from what it used to be.
As a result of the investor-friendly environment, potential investors and other bigwigs have been attracted to the oil and gas sector in Delta State with the assurance of stability and peace, which are essential ingredients for growth and development. Beyond this, they recognize the infrastructural framework of Delta State as a key to facilitate business and commercial activities.
Well, Delta is one of the largest oil producing states in Nigeria, as you're aware. And then we also, when doing our research, we found out that the government policy for business is friendly. And I like the security architecture that
the state government has put in place.
The governor's initiative on friendly investment environment will attract any investor to come in. So that is one good reason. You don't expect us to run away from something that is friendly. We have to come in and tap into it.
The journey of 1,000 miles, they say, begins with a step. The Okowa-led administration has demonstrated resilience in its strides towards the attainment of a stronger Delta. In the last 5 years, it has been one bold, positive step after the other.
Run, come to Delta State. Come and see the good things where Okowa they do. You better run, come to Delta State. Come and see the good things where Okowa they do. I see your job and work creation in Delta. Make the youth say them highlight Okowa. I see good roads everywhere in Delta. Make the people say them cola. Come live in Delta. Say me I say. Come invest in Delta. Come explore the potentials of our state.